Mr. Speaker, I would ask that all remaining questions be allowed to stand at this time, please.
Is it agreed? Agreed and so ordered. I have notice of a request for emergency debate from the member for Vancouver East.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I thank you for giving me the opportunity to rise in the House to speak to the issue of this issue of vital importance. Today, I request that the House hold an emergency debate regarding the rise of white nationalism and far-right extremism in Canada and across the globe. 2 years ago, Canadians and especially Muslims were devastated by the news that an act of terror had been carried out at the Islamic Cultural Center of Quebec City. 6 innocent lives were stolen from us and 19 others were injured when a gunman indiscriminately opened fire at worshippers. For those impacted, the healing process has been a long, slow, and painful journey. They were shaken to the core, their city, their place of worship. These were places they believed to be safe and should have been able to believe that. We would learn that the motives behind this act of terror were hatred of Muslims in opposition to immigration and multiculturalism. We would find out that he was radicalized online with far-right extremist messaging. On March 15th, the healing journey for Quebec cities and for Canada's Muslim communities faced a significant setback. A horrific act of terror was carried out in New Zealand. A far-right white nationalist took the lives of 50 innocent people and injured 50 more. He too acted out of hatred and xenophobia targeted at Muslims. He too destroyed the sanctity of the places that people come to worship. In this case, it was the Al Noor Mosque and the Lingwood Islamic Center in Christchurch. We must address that since the Syrian refugee crisis there has been a troubling increase in anti-immigrant xenophobic rhetoric, acts and policies that have been primarily targeted at Muslims by Western nations. It has led to a significant growth in the popularity of far-right and nationalist political parties and the implementation of anti-immigrant and anti-refugee policies. As you may recall, you granted my request for an emergency debate on January 29, 2017, when the newly elected President of the United States, Donald Trump, in one of his first acts in office, enacted a discriminatory Muslim travel ban. So while the most recent events in New Zealand happened far from Canadian shores, we must recognize that Canada is not immune to this trend and the threat of white nationalism and far-right extremism. We must recognize that these events are linked. The name of the perpetrator of the Quebec City mosque shooting was etched on the weaponry used by the New Zealand shooter. Elected officials in this country have a duty to stand up and speak out against hate. We cannot continue to allow and implicitly support rhetoric and individuals that foster this hatred in our communities, online and abroad. Should you grant my request, it will allow parliamentarians to address the situation before us. We must determine a way forward that deals with these troubling trends and events. We cannot sit idly by and allow our neighbors to no longer feel safe in our communities. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, honourable member for Vancouver East. Of course, I should point out to members that requests for emergency debate should be brief, and I do not find that it meets the strict requirements of the standing order.